Welcome back to another episode of the Lofty Lenders Homebuyer Education, where we explore tips, tricks, and stories that can help you plan for your next home purchase. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, an investor, or just looking to learn, we hope you gain a little knowledge today. Today, we want to talk a little bit about what makes us a little different when it comes to the mortgage process. Charlie, do you want to
The mortgage process.
Yeah, well, you're right. You're right. We're always a little different.
A little different.
But before we talk about our process, I kind of want to take a step back on this. Charlie, drew you into mortgages in the first place? Clearly, you didn't go to college for mortgages. So how'd you get
Well,
here?
well, first of all, words are hard. So, the accounting background, knew nothing of what I wanted to do other than dad was in lending, said I'd never do that. That's why you never say never. It was fun because when we got down to it, and I think you saw this when you got into it first, maybe a different path, but I loved that you could help somebody with a budget and then start to understand how lending works because most people don't get it. When you need it, I got to have it, and you run. You don't really know what the options are. So the more and more I learn, the more we could educate people that you have option A or B or C or D. And then you can get people in a better spot, and they're not using payday loans. They're not using expensive credit cards to float something for 6 months where they thought that was a good idea. So I like the creativity. I love puzzles. So once I connected the puzzle with the numbers, game on.
So we do a spreadsheet, right? And we use that spreadsheet when we help our consumers a lot. We love that spreadsheet. But I'm curious, even before the spreadsheet, was there a Charlie Chedester that ever operated without the spreadsheet?
I think there was, and that's when there wasn't a lot more benefit than any other lender because it was hard to convey what was in my head. And I think it came on early. I don't have records from that far back. We'll take that back. I did have some green bar. If that's not dating me, I don't know what is.
What's that?
That's what accountants use. That was a spreadsheet, man. It was just lined paper and it was our spreadsheet. It just didn't autofill. So I don't think it was really all that long. I had something, and then once we got the initial version of what we're using today, it wasn't that long into my career. I wonder what year that was.
Well, I guess you probably have to go back to when computers first came out, right? That's probably around the
I
time.
learned on a computer, Apple IIe, man.
Well, let's get into our process a little bit. So you talked about like you use that spreadsheet because that helps us to be different. Where have you found that really has played a significant role for you here in the recent future or recent past? Excuse me.
It's why we were delayed shooting this today, other than, always tech challenges. I was working on a new one for a guy that's got a lot of rental properties and I have a lot of notes. He sent a lot of details and none of it is where it flows. And that's why we like Excel so much, or Google Sheets. Any spreadsheet is going to help you get the same data that you can have on a list and start having some things that'll calculate so you don't have human error or you just don't have to do the work as frequently. That's really what you and I keep modifying things for. It's like we do the same calculations in and out with slightly different details. It's a lot of work, but if we build, maybe not one time, we have to redo a few things. But once we get it to where it presents as well as it helps us save time and save errors, it's a win across the board.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed that has recently just got a new computer, and I found out that Microsoft actually had to start giving away the basic Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, I believe, because Gmail gives those things away, right? And so Microsoft had to keep up, and so therefore they went ahead and provided those things out there. So I find it interesting that when people tell me, "Well, I can't, I don't have spreadsheets." I used to, okay, let's find Google Sheets or something. Well, now I can just recommend you just go download them because it's free, or you can even access them online. They're easy to get to
Yep.
because those spreadsheets really are they're a game changer for us.
There. And it's one of those things, we have people that are uber detailed, they love spreadsheets. They want to get in the minutia, which is great. That's why we got it there. That's what we do. But we've got people who have never opened it. And that's okay too. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but I mean, we're comparing to the fast and easy that's online. That's just wrong. Once you read the byline, you got to do all your own math, which nobody wants to do anyway. So that little bit of learning curve, albeit not someone's favorite thing, once we can let them know, it's like, you're not going to have any stress in this. All the numbers are easy. We'll walk through. We'll help you do it. But you don't have those surprises. And that's really everything we're looking at. It's just know. As long as you know, it's not that bad.
So we've kind of talked generically about the spreadsheet, but tell me if I'm a buyer walks in the door and I've never never talked to you before. This never happens, by the way. Nobody ever walks in the door
You
we
did
don't get
have
that
one.
foot traffic. Yeah,
You
he had called first already. It doesn't happen.
no.
But see, I walk in the door and I sit down with you and I say, I want to buy a house. At what point do we get to that spreadsheet? And oh, by the way, I have probably a 680 credit score and I'm a first time buyer. And I don't know, I make $4,000 a month. What are you going to do? What are you recommending in your head with that spreadsheet that we start with?
And this is just a great point for people who work with you or me, or if we're gone, they work with the opposite person. You and I do things a little bit differently and mostly on the intake, but the process and the results are basically the same. And I think that's the fun part is we're designed to where we can either do the survey that I do the phone call that we both do an online app like you have a lot of them, or do those walk-ins. It takes very little initial information for us to say, okay, here's a template. We find out what that general credit score range is, so we're at least close on mortgage insurance, and we know how to get a fair rate, even though it's not something we're doing official quotes because people aren't ready yet. But then we have decent numbers to start with, and then, like you said, once we know the income, we can start to ballpark, and it's really getting enough information so the consumer can have something besides a verbal quote. I personally think verbal quotes are one of the worst things we can do. You and I understand numbers well, and I'll call and shop and apply myself just to see what people tell me. They'll start rattling off numbers and I'm confused. 15 seconds in, I am totally confused because I did too many. I can't keep them straight in my head in the way they're telling me. So, we're going to confuse people with everything we tell them, and that's the hard part because we got to give it all to them. But once we can see it and it's something they can play with, then you start to get comfortable with that piece. And now they have a sample house. It's like, oh, that makes more sense. So it's really a building block. It's a good bench that we can start on. And then each house they find or each description they give us or whatever questions pop up, it makes the next thing on that calculator make more sense. So it's not as confusing as to why would I pick option A versus option B or whatever the case may be.
And I think sometimes too that spreadsheet helps me. Right. So I sit down and I start going over options for a consumer and the maybe I'm looking at FHA versus conventional. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, they got great credit. They want to buy, a $800,000 house. We're going to go conventional all day. They want to put down that minimum down payment, 3% or whatever. And what you'll notice is that 3% is down payment, or excuse me, your 3% down payment requires mortgage insurance, of course, because you got less than that 20%. That mortgage insurance ends up being a little costly, right? And
Yeah.
then the interest rates on a conventional loan versus an FHA loan, conventional is typically a little bit higher than an FHA loan, especially someone with really good credit getting an FHA
Right.
loan. I learned this year, I thought for sure, I talked to a friend of mine and he was ready to buy a house. And I was like, okay, well, you say you want to go FHA. I'll go ahead and put it on the spreadsheet just in case. And then I looked at the payment. I'm like, wow, it's $200 a month cheaper to go FHA. And in my head, I've had this thought of,
Yeah.
well, he's got great credit. He's a first time buyer, but he should probably go conventional. As long as the property will pass, FHA is going to be his best way to go all day because it's cheaper, it's a lower interest rate. Yes, there's mortgage insurance, but how many people are waiting until they hit 20% equity before they ever refinance? Most people are refinancing before that.
And that's exactly it. I mean, there's so many little nuanced pieces that, especially, the higher credit, it gets to be a little easier to tell. But when you're in the middle or in the lower, there's all the stuff you're going to search that conventional is better. Get conventional. It's like, not necessarily. Let's look at it. And you may have two houses, and the answer could be conventional for one and FHA for the other. There's really those little nuances when people are trying to get pre approved. And that's why we tell everybody we collect it, we show you if USDA is an option, conventional, more down, less down, because when you think you're going to buy the house, you may not buy what's in your head. It's probably not available. So you're going to make some concessions. You may go a little high here and a little low there. It doesn't matter. You get to pick what you want. But when we can look at it, and I'm with you, it helps me because I can then remember last time we talked. So there's some records of what we did last time. And it makes it that much easier to know without having all those question marks. And you hit the head or the nail on the head with the 3% down versus 5% down. People talking percentages, and I honestly hate that because it's not really a number or a dollar amount. And so it's hard to say, yeah, I'm going to write a check for 3% down. Well, what is that? Sure, it makes sense, but now you get more math in your head. And that's why we push people. What check do you want to write? $11,210, $2 million, whatever that check is, that is going to be where we want to stick. And that's why on that calculator, we put payment goal. Normally it's a range, and then cash out of pocket goal. It's not our pick. It's reminding us where you want to be. Also reminding you, you said you didn't want a payment higher than $1,600. This one's $1,800. Are you sure that's okay? So it's a great checks and balances, all just everywhere.
I think I have a story that comes to mind. I spoken with a guy earlier, a couple months ago, whatever, and I know he was shopping me. He was talking to another loan officer, and he had gotten pre-approved with both of us. And I just did what I always do. I gave him the spreadsheet and then continued to follow up every week. And eventually got under contract, called me up, said, "Hey, I'm under contract. Let's move forward." And finally got the gumption after a couple of weeks of, okay, man, why? Why did I win your business? I mean, I don't know what makes me different than the other person. And, I hope it's my good looks, but I know it's probably not. So, yeah, I'm not going to assume it is. And he said, honestly, it was that spreadsheet. That spreadsheet broke down options for me. It showed me different ways to do this because I didn't really know what I was looking at, or I knew what purchase price I was looking at, but I didn't necessarily know what my payment options were. And so knowing
Right.
that, okay, if I put an extra 2% down for the down payment, that equals this amount in actual dollars.
Right.
But that also then reduces my monthly payment by X as well. And so he could kind of play around with that and get a better feel for what he was getting himself into, as opposed to, hey, you're pre-approved to go buy a house. We'll tell you what the payment is after you find that property. That's scary as all get out.
It is. Well, and some of those calculators that are really easy to use, they're not even quoting everything. So you're missing mortgage insurance, you're missing taxes, or
Or
they're
it throws in a
quoting
random mortgage insurance rate. And we were looking at one the other day. It just had 1% in there. Most of the times, it's not 1% unless you've got lower credit. 1% is an extremely high amount.
that's a lot. Yeah. I don't think we've closed one with that for but a rarity, and that would be unusual. But yeah, there's so many little details. I think one of the biggest things I've been repeating myself lately when I talk to people is every mortgage lender is going to be very, very similar. We all have basically the same options. Not every lender knows how to use those options to get all the benefits out of it. But my line lately has been, I'm just going to squeeze out every little thing we can. You're going to get a little over here and a little over there, and then this is going to be a little bit better. Well, $20 isn't a big deal unless you get $20 3, 4, 5 times. And so that's where we can fine tune. But again, we use it as a budgeting tool to start. So you are slightly on the high side, way safer. That way you're not going to have any negative kick in the shin stressors. And then as we get down to it, now we can start to fine tune and really show, hey, option A, B, C, these are all almost identical. Here's the little differences. And what do you like? FHA versus conventional, very similar. This one's got a pro here. FHA's rate's a little better. FHA's got an extra fee. There's no right or wrong. Some of those could be really, really tricky to decide what's right unless you can see them side by side.
Do you have any stories that come to mind when I talk about spreadsheets? I always say the spreadsheet is undefeated, right? I just feel like every time especially if somebody opens it up and works with it, there have definitely been times where I've sent it and I know they haven't looked at it and they've asked me a bunch of questions about what this looks like or what that looks like. And ultimately that spreadsheet wins every time as long as you understand. And if you don't understand it, call us and we can go through it and try to make it as black and white for you, because it's really not that confusing, but it's really powerful in how it works.
And we're only inputting a few figures. We've got all the stuff in there. It's not like anybody has to do major surgery. You've got price and property taxes and dues. I mean, if you look at something that has dues, you could be, $100 in dues, $500 in dues for an HOA. But really, the price and the property taxes are the two biggest. The rest of them, we have fair estimates, and that's where some people want to fine tune and get there. Great. But it's making sure those two major ones, because most people just focus on price. And price alone, there's a lot of room for error. For stories, I go back, I think when I first started it, because I had my budget on a spreadsheet. I got sick and tired of trying to keep stuff in my checkbook, which I did, but I'd write and rewrite, and I couldn't read my handwriting, and you forget something. And at least in a spreadsheet budget, you may have, your utility bill is $50 a month. Okay, maybe these days it's more than that. But if you're 45 one month and 55 the next, Okay. But you had 50 bucks a month in. That's how ours works with the payment calculator. Like, we know your insurance is going to be around whatever's appropriate. Great. You might be a little higher, you might be a little lower, but we're within a few bucks. And I think that's really the trick when it comes to the spreadsheet, to where if you really do want to fine tune, when people get excited about the house, I got one last night, it's a little bit more than we planned on. I'm like, okay, well, remember, I've got a little cushion in there. You can put more down. You don't have to stress about it. We're within 50 bucks. If 50 bucks is a fair tolerance, which it should be for most people, even maybe 100, depending on the price of the house, that's fine. I mean, you don't need to pinpoint to the dollar what your payment's going to be or how much out of pocket. You got that fair wiggle room that's not going to stress you out. A little different for everybody, but that's fine. That's where we want to keep you, is in that safe zone.
Yeah, I think about this all the time and how the spreadsheet is just, it always helps people to fully understand what they're looking at. It helps them to figure out how much they're bringing for down payment, what their payment is. One of the biggest things is, you look at a house and you're like, well, Kyle, I don't know if I can afford that. Go ahead and punch it in the spreadsheet and let me know. That way, at least walking into that house, okay, this house is a little bit over my budget. It has to match every box. It better be perfect or else I'm going to walk away because this one's a little too high for me. And it's great because then somebody can tell me, come back to me and say, well, I'm going with this house. Hey, by the way, Charlie, you told me you wanted to keep your payment under 1,600. This one's at 1,700. Are you sure you want to do that? Yeah, yeah, Kyle. I've already reviewed it. I know what this was coming into, and I went with it.
Awesome.
People will call us and say, hey, Kyle, you told me that I was going to have cash to close. I don't know, $35,000. That's what the spreadsheet shows. Well, the documents that you send out, they say more than that. Why is that? Well, the spreadsheet is really, really good. Charlie and I, we compare notes usually after every loan closes, and we say, okay, we projected that your cash to close was going to be $35,820. What did you bring at closing? You brought $35,200. We ended up being a little high. I'd rather be a little high and tell you, hey, I want you to bring 35,800, and then you end up with 35.2, rather than, hey, you're going to bring 35.8 and you ended up needing to bring 45 and nothing changed throughout the process that gave you, any alarm to know that that was going to be the case. So I think that's really important. Just can't stress enough how awesome the spreadsheet can work. We have tested, we have done so many different loans through this spreadsheet. We update it every year with new information, new things that are changing, trying to keep it fresh. We have made a little graphic design improvements. Charlie can't
I
see
like my
colors.
colors.
He can't see any. Yellow and red are not great colors, Charlie. I know you loved them, but they're
They're
horrible.
pretty. And
Oh
blue.
gosh, I showed it to Jess on our team and I said, this is what we used to be working with. They were horrible. So I'm glad that my limited design skills were able to give you some prettier colors,
There has been some nice compliments.
but we are in good shape with that spreadsheet and it's pretty awesome. Final question for you, Charlie. If someone's shopping for a mortgage lender right now, what would you say is one thing that would help them understand our process and why they should work with us?
And that's really where we've had the most labor and effort, and keep reviewing this. So if anybody has suggestions, we would love to hear them. But I think the difference is the same thing we've always pushed, is go for a free second opinion. And a lot of places are going to try and put something on paper, and that's their quote to you, but they can't even walk through it or really explain the details, because it does get confusing, but finding a way to convey that. And we can put their quote on our spreadsheet. Totally fine. The difference between everything we do is, one, we're not going to push you. We would love to help you because we only get paid when you close, but we're not here to get paid. We're here to do the right thing, and then we will get paid by doing the right thing. We want to see you financially successful, the least amount of stress, and just really happy in your community and your family and everything that you are able to do with your own time. Don't stress about money if you don't have to. By knowing where you want to go and being open with what you want, that's the goal we're going to have, is get you where you want to go. And sometimes it's exactly what you were shopping for. Other times it's two steps to the right. You didn't even know you could do that. And we made so many things better. So by working with us, our goal is that we're not just doing your mortgage. Yes, that is our job. We want to have as much benefit added to that so you can have the better budget, you have better credit scores, you have less money stress, more reserves, pay off your house faster, be debt free faster. we're not here to overwhelm anybody, but you pick 2 or 3 top things that are driving you nuts. Let's take care of it. We can do it. And a lot of it's not as hard as people think.
Well, if you guys want to get a hold of us, you're listening to this, maybe you're not watching it live or afterwards, or whatever, you can go to teamchedester.com. That's CHEDESTER.com and take a look. There's a couple of places there you can access through our contact us page. You can click on the survey and start taking the survey Charlie was talking about. Get a hold of us. Let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we hope you enjoyed the conversation today and found it valuable. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms and subscribe to the podcast for more exciting episodes. And remember, stay curious. We'll see you next week on The Lofty Lender.